Okay, my research actually emerged quite unexpectedly in response to the growing concerns about the impacts of climate change among agrarian residents in rural West Africa. So it was these residents' articulation of and responses to dramatic environmental transformation that's shaped my own research for the last 2 decades. Sorry, Brian. This is now on some sort of, got it. Now it's okay. Okay, so my ethnographic research is actually based in Guinea-Bissau, which is, is this gonna work? It's, if you go all the way up west and on the coast, just south of Senegal. I've spent a lot of time doing what anthropologists do, which is deep hanging out in a network of villages right in the northwest corner of Guinea-Bissau, where people have developed a really sophisticated and for many centuries, very successful rice-based agrarian society. The topography in this region is primarily thick oil palm forests and low-lying coastal mangrove swamps that have been carved into wet rice paddies that are irrigated by what was once abundant rainfall. Now, what you're seeing here on the left is a neighborhood-based work group of men who are tilling these paddies, which are, when they're flooded by rainfall, inundated really by rain, women transplant rice seedlings, most of which now never get to ripen. Now, I started living in the central village in this region in 2001. And I had a very different research agenda in mind. But as I became increasingly involved in the rhythms of daily life there and went to work each day in the forests and in the rice paddies and listened to friends and neighbors, it became really abundantly clear that the centerpiece of most conversations was rice, producing it, consuming it, revering it. And the primary preoccupation was the increasing impossibility of continuing to do these things that had long defined what it meant to be a person and a member of this society. So much more than a staple crop that they like to grow and eat, rice has been the linchpin of economic, social, and symbolic life in this region for as long as anyone can remember. And this history is really vital. It's these rice-growing populations that gave rise to pre-colonial West African states. And when Europeans first started to explore this area in the mid-15th century, they actually dubbed it the grain or rice coast, indicating that was a sort of definitive quality of it. So these were, as my interlocutors there often remind everyone, these were societies that were rich in rice. Now, the wholesale transformation of this reality is a very long story, and it includes not just climate change, but also the ongoing legacies of disadvantageous colonial and post-colonial policies and increasingly global market conditions that really since the 1970s have gutted local economies and increased dependence on imported Asian rice. And those factors, many others, plus changing climatic conditions, have led up to the early 2000s when I was living in Guinea-Bissau and villagers were telling me, we can't do this anymore. Suffice it to say, there are no climate change deniers in this region. They are fully aware that they inhabit a moment of deep structural uncertainty as their beliefs and practices around livelihood, around personhood, politics, and religion are being challenged to the core. And this is a predicament that's not only familiar among agrarian groups in Africa and elsewhere, but of course, I think among many populations, rural and urban, who are encountering similar pressures that demand a kind of reimagining and a reorganizing of the very premises of their individual and collective existence. So given this kind of undeniably local and particular set of circumstances, but also its global resonance, its significance, I think for many of us in the room and those of us who work elsewhere, my research is focused on how residents in rural Guinea-Bissau are responding to these pressures. So my first book, Sacred Rice, explored how people are rethinking and reshaping their relationships with the land, with their deities, with each other, and with what it means to be an ethical and successful person. I've since studied how the decline in rice agriculture has actually opened up quite unwittingly opportunities for women to shake up gender relations and challenge longstanding forms of patriarchal control, whether by disappearing under the radar as widows or opting out of marriage altogether. And I'm continuing to follow and deepen my own understanding of these dynamics of what are really largely unorchestrated changes. So this is where, to wrap it up, where I think anthropology and especially long-term immersive ethnography have something unique and powerful to contribute to research on climate change by providing insights into this entanglement of natural and social and historical, political and supernatural forces that shape. So we've gone from human to non-human to maybe extra human, how they also have profound and sometimes difficult to discern and not always negative impacts on social relations, morality, and cosmology. And also how they tend to complicate some of our assumptions about the inexorable relationship between knowledge and practice. And this is where I can see some links with Anne's and Madeline's work as well, that the link between knowing about and even being able to clearly articulate a given problem and doing something about it is perhaps more difficult than we previously have assumed. And finally, anthropology can show us how the circumstances of people and places that don't typically get a lot of attention and might seem far removed from our own reality actually evoke dilemmas that we all face as we try to figure out how to craft our lives, how to raise our children, how to teach our students in meaningful and pragmatic ways, but also at a moment, yes, differently configured, still, I think, irrefutable, of transformation and uncertainty. So I think we have a lot of learning to do together about this. Thank you.